I'm Helen King. I'm based at the Open University, and I'm a historian of childbirth, midwifery and gynecology, originally in the ancient Greek world, but I've moved forward, particularly into the 18th century, because it's that point where things start to shift. This is a story from 1787, a case presented on June the 21st, 1787, to the Royal Society in London. The Royal Society was somewhere where interesting cases, unusual things about the natural world were often presented. And this is a story of quintuplets, very, very rare. The story starts with the mother, Margaret Waddington. She was 21, she lived in rural Lancashire near Blackburn. She'd given birth once before to a son, no problem at all, absolutely normal. When she became pregnant again, things started to get a bit dodgy. She felt very, very heavy from day one, pretty well. She got bigger and bigger. She could hardly move. She was lame in one leg as a result of the heaviness of the pregnancy. She felt very ill. She was in a lot of pain. And she grew at the most alarming rate. She consulted somebody for the pain, but about the 20th week, she went into labour. And at this point, she called in a physician called Mr. Hull. Mr. Hull attended her, and without any intervention, she gave birth to 5 children, 2 born alive, 3 born dead, within about an hour. This was clearly extremely unusual. And Mr. Hull wrote to the person who trained him, a Dr. Gilbert Blaine, who trained him at St. Thomas's Hospital. So here you have someone writing to the person who taught them. So you've got some information being spread about unusual situations like this. Then Dr. Blaine reported it to another doctor, Dr. Maxwell Garthshaw, who was based at the British Lying-in Hospital. And he's the one who then took it forward to the Royal Society, where it was presented to a meeting and the case was read out. Now, Dr. Garthshaw gave us evidence that this was a true case, not some fictional thing. The fact that he knew the history of it, that Dr. Hull had trained with Dr. Blaine, that Dr. Blaine knew him. So there's a lot of we all know each other, so we know it's true going on. But they also had real, tangible evidence because Dr. Hull was able to get all 5 of the babies and have them preserved. And those specimens were also sent to the Royal Society and later passed on to John Hunter's museum. So you've got material evidence as well as a reliable witness here. And the point about sending it to Garthshaw was that Garthshaw was really interested in multiple births anyway. And because Garthshaw worked at the British Lying-in Hospital, he had access to data, raw data from which statistics could be gained. So he looked through the records of the British Lying-in Hospital and found that over 18,000 babies had been born since it was set up. And he reckoned 1 in 91 was a twin birth. And again, he used his networks, so he wrote to doctors all over Europe asking them about their hospitals, their lying-in hospitals in particular, what were the statistics? And he came up with figures between sort of 1 in 50 to 1 in 70, 1 in 90 births was a twin. Then he asked about triplets and more, and found very, very few cases. So he was interested in data, and because the lying-in hospitals had records that could be looked at like that, he was able to come up with figures at least for twin births, and then to start to think about more multiple births. So there's a mixture here of the networks. We all know each other, we can ask other doctors we've trained, we report things to those who've trained us, and the actual statistical data that the lying-in hospitals made available. And I think that's what's significant for this case, that it shows by the end of the 18th century, hard data is being gathered, and issues of risk are being considered. There's one other thing, the role of the man. In the original case, it was noted that the husband of Margaret Waddington was infirm. He'd been ill for about 3 years. And one thing that a lot of these reports say is that even though the man was really quite ill, he was still able to procreate. There's something here also about how men can just do the business, even when they're really ill, and in fact can produce multiple babies all in one go. Unfortunately, though, they don't live.